Welcome to Land of the Bible. I'm your host, David Sussman. This week, we're going to learn about the modern city of Jerusalem. For thousands of years, Jerusalem has stood as the spiritual heart of the world. Nestled in the biblical heartland of Israel, along the ancient path of the patriarchs, this city has been a beacon of faith, resilience, and prophecy. But beyond its ancient walls, a new Jerusalem has emerged, one that is thriving, modern, and boldly moving into the future. With a world-class public transportation system, high-tech industries, and neighborhoods filled with parks, restaurants, and a vibrant cultural life, today's Jerusalem is a city that blends its sacred past with the conveniences of the modern world. Jerusalem is a city alive with energy, diversity, and of course, tradition. I'm David Sussman, and on this episode of Land of the Bible, we'll discover how Jerusalem is shaping its future while remaining rooted in its timeless faith and history. Join me as we explore the new and modern city of Jerusalem. Modern Jerusalem. I can't think of a better place to start our journey right here in Paratroopers Square, named after the paratroopers who liberated the old city in 1967 during the Six-Day War. But the real reason is that we're going from the old city here to my left to the modern city of Jerusalem here to my right. The whole story of Jerusalem's expansion to become a modern metropolitan city can really be told right here, because it begins in the mid to late 19th century with the development of Jewish communities outside the old city, but also European nations as well as Russia building churches, convents, as well as hostels for pilgrims who are visiting the Holy Land. And that all comes about because of the capitulation agreement that's going to be signed by the Turkish Ottoman Empire at the end of the Crimean War. The French, for example, build this huge convent for the Catholic Church right here in the center of Jerusalem. But after the Turkish Ottoman Empire, which will fall to the British in 1917 at the end of World War I, they're going to expand modern Jerusalem even further. They build the building you can see here to my right-hand side, Barclays Bank, which took over the first floor, but the upper floor served as the municipality of Jerusalem from 1930 all the way until 1994. That's more than 60 years until Jerusalem will build a massive modern city hall, which we're going to visit a little bit later. Let's go into the depth of it all by going to the first Jewish neighborhood. Not only just Jewish neighborhood, the first neighborhood that's built beyond the old city walls here in Jerusalem. And that's the neighborhood of Mishkanot Sha'ananim. Let's head on over there now. So the first neighborhood constructed outside the old city's Mishkanot Sha'ananim was an initiative and was also primarily paid for by Sir Moses Montefiore, but more about him later. The actual name of the neighborhood, which was given by Sir Moses, Mishkanot Sha'ananim, was a reference to the prophet Isaiah, where in chapter 32, it talks about in the Messianic age that the Jewish people, the Israelites here living in the land of Israel, will live in tranquil dwellings, Mishkanot Sha'ananim. A mishkan is a dwelling place, and she'anim means in or that, ananim, clouds, tranquility, and this is the vision that Sir Moses had for his new neighborhood. However, times weren't very tranquil in the mid-19th century in 1860 when this community was constructed. And that's why we had to walk through the heavy door and the outer wall, and even the apartments and the buildings you can see behind me are constructed with a crenulated roof which offered the people an opportunity to defend themselves between the slits. They could have either archers or rifle bearers that in case they were under attack, they would be able to defend themselves. In fact, times were so rough here in Jerusalem that the old city gates were shut at sunset and were only opened at sunrise. And if you were left outside, well, tough luck. You were left with the undesirables, the rapists, the murderers, and the people who would rob you clean. In fact, it was so dangerous that when this area was first constructed, people were hesitant to move in. If it was so dangerous beyond the old city walls, why would Sir Moses Montefiore want to build Mishkanot Sha'anim here? Well, first of all, we have to understand that in the middle of the 19th century, with the advent of the steam-powered engine, it became a lot easier to arrive to the shores of the land of Israel. And as a result, Jews began to flock here, and where else to live than Jerusalem? And the population began to grow. In fact, it almost doubled in size between 1850 and 1870. Going from roughly about 1,200 people living here to over 2,500 people living here, most of them Jews. So the old city became almost uninhabitable. Cisterns which collected water became soiled, and people were becoming sick. People were calling out to a Moses-like figure to lead them to a new exodus to greener pastures. Well, call out and God will answer. Of course, he didn't send Moses from the story of the Exodus. He sent Sir Moses Montefiore, and as a result, the first neighborhood beyond the old city walls. Sir Moses Montefiore's approach to the construction of Mishkanot Sha'anim was twofold. On one side, he wanted to alleviate some of the pressures that were caused by the urban congestion of so many Jews arriving here in the dawn of this modern Zionist period. However, the other side was that he was a visionary, and he saw that the Zionist dream could only succeed if we could self-sustain ourselves. At that time, many of the Jews living here in Jerusalem and across the entire Holy Land were turning to their families and Jews living abroad for handouts in order to purchase basic essential items. So what he did was he constructed a windmill here in Mishkanot Sha'anim, so that the people living here could grow their own wheat and then use the windmill to grind that grain, producing flour and of course to bake challah or bread and sell it to their fellow Jews and begin to become a community that was self-sufficient. However, due to the advent of steam-powered mills, the windmill became somewhat obsolete, but it still stands as a testament to those modern Zionist values and the visionary dreams of having a modern state of Israel, which thank God we have today. What I love most about Sir Moses Montefiore is that he was a godly man. And when he was knighted by Queen Victoria in England, he did not forget Jerusalem. And I don't mean he forgot Jerusalem and stayed in England the whole time, because obviously he came here a number of times and built this amazing neighborhood. But in his crest of arms that was given to him by the Queen, he wrote Jerusalem in Hebrew on it. Because it says in the book of Psalms, "In my highest moment, if I forget you, Jerusalem, let my tongue cleave to its roof." He didn't forget Jerusalem, and he sure didn't lose his speech. Today, Mishkanot Sha'anim isn't just a place for international tourists to learn about the modern development of Jerusalem, but is a place that locals come to as well, to enjoy coffee, dessert, and also to attend the orchestra or symphony at the Jerusalem Music Center, which hosts acts that come from abroad, and those performers stay in the apartments that was once inhabited by the original members of this community. Those modern Zionists who arrived here in the middle of the 19th century arrived by boat to the shores of the land of Israel in the city of Jaffa. But how'd they come here to Jerusalem? Well, first it was with horse and buggy, but eventually a railroad would be built with a station just outside the old city of Jaffa and one right here in Jerusalem, which is known today as the first station. Let's head there now.
Imagine walking where Jesus walked, where faith comes to life. Feel the Bible story unfold around you, from the green Galilee to Jerusalem's ancient streets. Experience the serene and welcoming land of the Bible, where miracles happen. Put your heart where His footsteps are. Visit Israel.
The first station, originally known as the Jerusalem Railroad Station, was part of a system connecting the two great cities of Jaffa and Jerusalem. It reduced the travel time between these two cities significantly to just a few short hours. As a result, the movement of goods, agricultural produce, and people greatly increased. This bolstered the amount of pilgrims and tourists who were flocking to the city, which stimulated the local economy as there was a greater need now for lodging, food, and services. This, in turn, would begin the modern development of Jerusalem beyond the old city walls, with new roads, neighborhoods, and shops being built, which would create the modern urban landscape of Jerusalem today. First station at the turn of the 20th century also served as a social hub where people from all different backgrounds could come and talk with one another about the topics of the day. Even today, First Station has become a social hub where concerts, cafes, and restaurants bring people from all different backgrounds. The Jewish-Christian alliance was as important back then as it is today. A German Protestant movement known as the Templars, who established communities in Haifa, Jaffa, and Jerusalem in the late 19th century, helped significantly in the development of the railway station and Jerusalem as a whole with their skills and services. And this is why the community around the first station is known as the German colony. Let's now head to another part of Jerusalem which played an important role in its development, our very own municipality and city hall. What's a city without a municipality? And Jerusalem's no different. It started off in a small office building on the top two floors of the Barclays Bank building. But as the population began to grow, it became more diverse, it became self-evident that the offices of the municipality would need to expand as well. And so they began to design what we have as Kikar Safra, a beautiful downtown urban area that's filled with walking spaces, gardens, art, but also houses the municipality of Jerusalem. It was inaugurated in 1993 and got its name from its benefactor, one of the great Jewish philanthropists of our time, Edmund Safra. There's also cafes and restaurants here, making it a perfect place to visit when in the center of Jerusalem. Let's head over to the light rail where we'll catch the train to Machane Yehuda Market. Jerusalem's light rail crosses through the entire city, from the Neve Yaakov neighborhood all the way to Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital. Right now, there's only one line that's operational, but there are plans to introduce 2 more additional lines connecting all of Jerusalem to the center. Construction began in 2002 and was finally completed in 2010. The reason for the long construction is everywhere you go in Jerusalem, you're going to find archaeology. And of course, where they were laying the lines, they found an ancient Jewish community in what is today a local Arab community known as Shuafat. Due to these construction delays, it finally opened up in 2011 with a cost of just slightly over $1 billion. Just a few stops away from City Hall, we find ourselves here at Machane Yehuda Market, otherwise known by locals as the Shuk. The Shuk is one of the most iconic places to visit here in Jerusalem next to the Old City. And I'll even say that it's really a microcosm of Jerusalem itself, its broader identity. It's a place where religion meets secularism, where ancient meets modern, and where local meets global. Don't think for a second that with all the modernization that's been going on here at the Shuk Machane Yehuda, with the amazing restaurants and cafes and designer shops, that it's lost its traditional feel. Here in the Iraqi section of the Shuk, it is still filled with shops selling produce, fruits, and vegetables from the land of Israel of the highest quality. Just like the first station brought economic development to that section and area of Jerusalem, there was a stagecoach station here, bringing people with horse and buggy from various parts of Israel to Jerusalem and back to their homes. And as a result, there were a lot of shops that opened up here as well. Most of these shops focused on fruits and vegetables, spices, and other necessities to be able to cook at home. However, an unfortunate side effect was that there was a lot of trash that produced in this area, and rodents began to infest the place. By the time the British Mandate began in the early 20th century, the place was intolerable. As a result, the British in the 1920s closed down the marketplace completely. They washed out the entire area and built permanent stalls that still exist today. In addition, they covered the Shuk to protect the shoppers from inclement weather and, of course, here in Israel, the blaring sun. Today, the Shuk has become a cultural phenomenon. It's a place where you can find boutique shops that are serving elegant cheeses. You can buy incredible desserts from Jewish communities around the world. There are designer shops here as well. People can buy jewelry and clothing. But at night, this entire marketplace shuts down for people to buy goods and turns into a scene with incredible restaurants and, of course, cafes. But when everything shuts down here at the Shuk, the place becomes a living, walking, breathing testament to the modern art scene here in Jerusalem. Most of the art that has been spray painted on the gates, the shutters that close these shops, was done by a man by the name of Solomon Souza. But instead of names spray painted on subways in New York City, he depicts the various Jewish characters throughout our gloried history. Some of it you can see peeking just around the frame of this flower shop. But it's definitely worthwhile to come here in the middle of the night, walk the alleyways of the marketplace, and learn for yourself a little bit about Jewish history. Now let's head to another section of Jerusalem as we continue to learn about the modernization of this holy city. As we leave the Machane Yehuda market and head towards Ben Yehuda Street, we stroll through the alleyways of Nachlaot, which is a series of neighborhoods that was built in the late 19th century, early 20th century, as Jerusalem's new city began to expand. Today, Nachlaot is filled with students and young people from all around the country who come to Jerusalem in order to tap into their spiritual roots. Ben Yehuda Street. Today, it is one of the major pedestrian thoroughfares in the heart of downtown Jerusalem that serves as a cultural, commercial, and social hub for the citizens of this great city. Historically, Ben Yehuda was known for its traditional shops and street vendors. However, today, more modern times, it's known as a leisure destination that people will come to in order to eat at the restaurants and cafes that spot the avenue. It's also a symbol of Jerusalem's resilience. During the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2004, there were a number of terrorist attacks that happened right here. And yet, Jerusalem's youth and its people would come out to congregate here, to listen to the musicians who performed on the street, and to watch the street performers who performed on a nightly basis. It became a symbol, the heart and soul of the Jewish people living right here in Jerusalem. Behind me is Zion Square, at the base of Ben Yehuda Street, where it intersects with Jaffa Road and the light rail. And this is really the center of the entertainment district of Ben Yehuda Street. You have your street performers, your musicians, like the one you can see behind me that's performing right now. In the evening, this square is filled with people, listening to music, dancing, having a great time with one another. Now, it usually doesn't look the way it does right now. Now, it's set up for a big party that's going to happen here tomorrow night. Ben Yehuda Street derives its name from Eliezer Ben Yehuda, who revived the Hebrew language to be a modern colloquial language spoken by the people of Israel. However, at the time, the predominant population here in Jerusalem, being Ashkenazi Jews who spoke Yiddish, wanted Yiddish to maintain being the common spoken language of the people. However, as you can see all around me, Hebrew today is the language of the Jewish people, just like it was during the days when the temple stood.
I will bless those who bless you, God promised Abraham. Embrace this covenant by connecting with the people of Israel. From Jerusalem's stones to Galilee's shores, experience living faith through their traditions and hospitality. Your journey is more than visiting biblical sites. It's about hearts that welcome your friendship. Your presence matters. Discover Israel.
Just a few stops from the Ben Yehuda Street, we find ourselves in the central station of Jerusalem, where the main bus terminal, the light rail, as well as the high-speed train that connects Jerusalem to Tel Aviv is located. And from here, we can see the experience that Jerusalem is going through right now as it transitions into the 21st century with developments across the city that are connecting all parts and all people of Jerusalem. When people think about Israel as being the startup nation, they think about Tel Aviv. However, right here in Jerusalem, right downtown, there are developments in progress, building multiple high-story buildings that will house new companies that are leading not just Israel, but the world into the future. In just a few short years, the skyline of downtown Jerusalem will be completely different. A vision of the former mayor of Jerusalem, Nir Barakat. If you have a hard time imagining what Jerusalem might look like in just a few short years, well, look at this artist's rendering of downtown Jerusalem with the high rises and the innovation all taking place right now. At the heart of this transformation that I was speaking about earlier is the heartbeat of Israel's democratic society, the Knesset, Israel's parliament. It's not just the center of government and where decisions are being made, but it's also the driving force between our wonderful, free, and democratic society. The pulse of modern Jerusalem beats strongly in its sports arenas, like Teddy Stadium, where the Jerusalem soccer team Beitar Yerushalayim plays, and Pais Arena, where the basketball team plays. However, these arenas are not just about competition, they're about community, a place where Jerusalemites gather to celebrate athleticism, unity, and the dynamic energy of modern Israeli life. Yad Vashem stands as a powerful memorial, ensuring that the voices of the past are never forgotten. It's a place of remembrance, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of the Jewish people. Thank you for watching, and make sure to join us next time as we connect you to the people, places, and land of the Bible.